It seems to me that we got a very big case that created a whole new world of presidential immunity. Those words, spoken by Judge Myrna Perez in a bustling New York courtroom, sent a collective jolt through spectators, legal analysts, and political pundits alike. In that single exclamation, so many questions suddenly crystallized. Is this moment about to redefine the American presidency, or is it merely another twist in a saga that has already seen countless surprises? And how far will one man go to challenge the convictions pressed against him? Today, we are about to embark on a deep dive into the labyrinth of legal strategies, political tensions, and high-powered court drama that all stem from Donald Trump's hush money conviction appeal. What is actually at stake here, and why does this court hearing matter so much? In essence, the entire debate revolves around how far the legal protections for presidents can go, and whether the hush money scandal that reportedly kept certain personal secrets out of the public eye during the 2016 election might have broader ramifications for future presidents. Over the course of this story, we will explore the thorny issue of whether presidential immunity can truly extend to everything a commander-in-chief does while in office, how $130,000 to silence a potentially harmful disclosure could spark so much national and even global controversy, and how this might ultimately change the way the justice system treats the highest office in the land. In this episode, prepare for a journey that will examine the arguments posed by Trump's legal counsel, who insists that the hush money offense in question touches on official presidential duties. We will also delve into the pushback from prosecutors, who argue that these alleged first steps toward a daring legal pivot, claiming federal protections for a matter of personal conduct, are far from justified. And you will hear about the key figures roaming the halls of justice, from Judge Myrna Perez, who has voiced an almost philosophical wonder about the boundaries of executive immunity, to Stephen Wu from the Manhattan District Attorney's Office, who insists that none of this is as neatly tied to presidential actions as the Trump defense claims. There are countless details that might keep you on the edge of your seat, and by the end, you may find yourself wondering whether we are witnessing the early chapters of a historically unprecedented legal transformation. But let's not wait another moment. Let us plunge into the heart of the matter, with all the dramatic intricacies and rhetorical bombshells that have made this hush money saga such compelling viewing. Keep in mind, we will soon unearth some extraordinary revelations about how Trump and his team plan to reframe the hush money ordeal as an undeniable extension of his time in the White House, and how the Supreme Court's recent rulings on broad criminal immunity for official presidential acts might influence the final outcome of this sharply contested appeal. Imagine the tense silence in the courtroom, with an expectant crowd holding its breath while Trump's attorney, Jeffrey Wall, addresses the three judges. Wall's voice resonates as he insists that because Donald Trump served as President of the United States, aspects of the hush money evidence that tied back to his official duties should never have been admitted in the first place. Every head in the room tilts forward in anticipation, waiting to hear whether the argument is persuasive enough to upend the entire state conviction. Then, unexpectedly, Judge Perez drops her electrifying, almost casual remark about how this case might have just cracked open an entirely new debate on what it means to be a president who might also face the scrutiny of criminal law. As we peel back the layers of detail from the hush money conviction, we discover something that shakes the foundation of political norms. The hush money arrangement, widely reported in the media, goes straight to the heart of candidate reputation management and campaign-related secrecy. Trump was convicted on 34 counts of falsifying business records, tied to hush money payments directed toward quieting Stormy Daniels' story of an alleged affair, ensuring the matter stayed under wraps during the 2016 election cycle. The public already knew, in broad strokes, that hush money was paid. But the significance here is how the legal system has chosen to classify the attempt to keep the story hidden, transforming it into a business records falsification issue that now forms the bedrock of this conviction. But here's where it gets especially juicy. Trump's legal team is trying to move his appeal out of state court and into the federal judicial system, specifically the United States Court of Appeals for the Second Circuit. The rationale? The lawyers argue that certain prosecutorial actions in the hush money trial, particularly the inclusion of evidence they deem tied to presidential action, should have been struck down following a Supreme Court decision that seems to widen the scope of immunity for any official presidential acts. The question is whether the hush money scheme itself, in some small or large measure, crossed into official duties or remained strictly personal conduct. If that line gets blurred, the entire understanding of what makes a president accountable to state-level laws might shift. Before we give away the next big twist, here is a quick invitation. If you find these legal sagas both thrilling and thought-provoking, We would love your support. Feel free to let us know you are enjoying this exploration by giving a friendly nod, a virtual thumbs up, or any small gesture that shows you want deeper dives into complex matters like this. It helps us keep up the momentum for revealing the courtroom battles, legal labyrinths, and dramatic showdowns that shape our times. Returning to the drama, let's pivot back to how prosecutors pounced on Trump's belated invocation of immunity. Stephen Wu, representing the Manhattan District Attorney's Office, wasted no time in pointing out that Trump delayed raising the immunity issue, making it appear like a strategic afterthought designed to secure a do-over in federal court. Wu's argument is that Trump's legal team had ample time to cite any relevant rulings or new precedents, but instead waited, possibly hoping that sticking to state court first might yield a favorable outcome. Only when that did not happen did they claim that immunity should have booted key evidence from the trial altogether. One can almost see the tension in the courtroom, as Wu asserts that the hush money arrangement was a personal matter at its core, not arguably an executive act performed on behalf of the American people. Indeed, this distinction between personal business and presidential duties could become the pivot on which the entire matter hinges. If hush money can be categorized as an official act, then the door might open wide for future leaders to argue broader immunity whenever personal activities mix, even briefly, with official schedules or resources. On the other hand, if hush money is deemed personal outside the realm of official duty, it suggests that even the occupant of the White House must answer to the same state-level criminal processes as ordinary citizens. So, in a sense, we are witnessing a fundamental question. How separate are a president's private dealings from the extraordinary powers vested in the office he holds? But it is not just about legal lines and constitutional intricacies. Across the nation, everyone from dedicated Trump supporters to ardent critics, from legal scholars to curious onlookers, is waiting for the next development. After all, it is the never-ending swirl of big personalities, provocative claims, and the looming possibility of appeals all the way up to the Supreme Court. The hush money scandal feels like a microcosm of the bigger meaning of accountability in politics, particularly in a time when the nation seems sharply divided on questions of trust, fairness, and the lengths to which individuals in power will go to protect their reputations. To further stoke our curiosity, the recent Supreme Court ruling on presidential immunity has not exactly clarified the boundaries. Some interpret it as extremely protective of any official move made by presidents, while others see it more narrowly, applying only to truly governmental acts. Trump's attorneys argue that because the hush money touched on Trump's viability as a candidate and arguably shaped his ability to serve effectively without distraction, it should be covered by the new immunity expansions. Their perspective essentially redefines campaign strategy as a vital function of the presidency, or at least so intimately related that it deserves legal insulation. Meanwhile, critics caution that adopting such a broad interpretation dangerously blurs lines between purely political or personal conduct and the actual responsibilities of the presidency. Meanwhile, in everyday conversations, whether at a local diner in Middle America or a late-night political roundtable on a major news network, the hush money story seems to have a peculiar grip. Some folks see it as more media sensationalism, an attempt to undermine a political figure they still champion. Others contend that the hush money fiasco is a key exhibit in showing how power can be leveraged to conceal unsavory details from the electorate, casting a shadow on the transparency needed for democracy to function. That tension ensures that each new development in the hush money saga does not simply vanish in a swirl of daily headlines. Instead, it lingers, demands attention, and hints at consequences reaching well beyond Donald Trump. But do not worry if you are feeling overwhelmed by the countless debates, cross-examinations, and legal references. Our objective today is to guide you through every twist and turn, ensuring you walk away with a comprehensive understanding of how hush money, state-level convictions, appeals, and claims of presidential immunity might all converge to shape the political future of this country. There is no shortage of drama, and at times it can feel reminiscent of a Hollywood thriller, loaded with bombshell quotes, feisty lawyers, and a lead character who is as polarizing as they come. Here is where it gets particularly gripping. By the end of the hearing at the United States Court of Appeals for the Second Circuit, the judges did not deliver an immediate decision. Instead, one can almost imagine them robe to robe in tense deliberation, uncertain whether the hush money matter truly tumbles into the black hole of official presidential acts, or whether Trump's attempt to recast personal secrecy as part of the job is too broad to stand. We know they have pledged to consider the arguments carefully and release a later ruling, and it is that intangible weight that ratchets up the drama. At this point, it is fair to wonder what new evidence, if any, might surface. Could there be more hush money deals that have yet to see the light of day? Are we about to see an eruption of additional testimonies, or perhaps even depositions from individuals in Trump's inner circle? Legal watchers and political strategists are on high alert, each convinced that the next revelation might tilt the conversation one way or another. In a political environment as charged as the one we find ourselves in, the hush money appeal threatens to overshadow so many other issues, simply because it tests the extent of accountability for presidents. As we navigate this labyrinth, we should also remember that hush money controversies, in one form or another, have appeared in political and celebrity contexts before, but rarely have they escalated to the level of a federal appeal that directly questions constitutional protections for the highest office in the land. The drama stems from the potential ripple effects. If Trump succeeds in moving this case to federal court and persuades a judge that the hush money arrangement was indeed entwined with his official duties, then a bold new precedent could be set for future leaders. Conversely, if the court slams the door shut on that argument, it reaffirms the principle that certain lines should never be crossed, regardless of who occupies the Oval Office. By now, we have traversed an extensive map of arguments, from the attorney's stance that campaign matters are crucial to the survival and functionality of a presidency, to the prosecutor's firm belief that hush money was purely a personal matter, orchestrated behind the scenes to shield private indiscretions from the public glare. If you have stuck with us through this legal expedition, you might be wondering, what should we be bracing for next? And here is where I gently remind you that if you are captivated by this unraveling legal conflict and want to stay updated on all the future bombshells and revelations, consider keeping in touch and following us for more. We promise to keep delivering timely updates on the hush money appeals progression and many other controversies that shape modern politics. Let us then return to some final potent reflections that might help crystallize the hush money saga in your mind. The stakes go beyond Trump's personal fortunes. The hush money conviction and subsequent appeal stand as a test. Do we want to interpret presidential immunity to the fullest extent in order to protect office holders from politically motivated prosecutions? Or do we want to ensure that no citizen, regardless of title, is beyond the reach of standard regulations and procedures? Ultimately, this debate might resonate with the voice of the Constitution itself, grappling with the tension between safeguarding the executive branch from trivial lawsuits and ensuring that genuine crimes are not swept under the rug. We can almost hear the anxious hum of the public's imagination, conjuring scenarios in which every scandal or alleged misdeed committed by a president could be brushed off as part of the job. Opponents of an expansive view of presidential immunity argue that it would effectively create an office above the law, undermining centuries of checks and balances. Supporters argue that if we do not protect presidents, relentless political attacks could paralyze the White House, making it impossible for a president to act decisively on behalf of the nation. Thus, as you can see, it is a complex moral, ethical, and legal question, not one that the courts are likely to answer neatly in a matter of days. For Judge Myrna Perez, her remark about this new world of presidential immunity feels like a clue, hinting that even she cannot fully glimpse the ultimate consequence of the hush money case. Yet the intangible sense of history being written is palpable. Each decision, each new twist, each fresh legal argument is forging a path that people in the future will look back on to determine how well we balance the demands of the presidency with the demands of justice. The hearing is a chapter in a longer story about power, accountability, and a presidency's capacity to remain tethered to the law like every other office in the land. That is why the hush money saga is more than a piece of gossip or an everyday scandal. It has become a crucible, a test of whether the occupant of the Oval Office can, or should, be forced to answer for personal entanglements that bubble up during an electoral campaign. Are we content if presidents can wrap almost anything in the protective cloak of official business, or must we draw a line? Even if it means acknowledging that a president might act sometimes as a private individual who has to face consequences in the same manner as everyone else? As we wrap up, it would be foolhardy to claim we know exactly what the court's final pronouncement will be. We can, however, peer with fascination at the road traveled thus far, from the earliest whispers of hush money payments directed at Stormy Daniels, through the swirl of media speculation, to the hush money convictions that pinned Donald Trump with 34 counts, and finally into the contested space of appeals, immunity, and deeper constitutional questions. It is a saga that beckons watchers from all political spectrums to pay attention, because the next ruling might shift the legal landscape in ways both profound and unpredictable. And so, I leave you with this thought. We may be witnessing a vital turning point in how America interprets presidential accountability. Will hush money serve as the catalyst that reshapes court precedent for generations? Or will the appeals judges decide that the line remains clearly drawn between personal indiscretions and the hallowed domain of official acts? The answers to these questions remain locked behind the deliberations of the Second Circuit, and perhaps even the Supreme Court, if it should come to that. But rest assured, we will be here, tracking each new development, every subtle shift in argument, and every bombshell piece of evidence. Until then, keep your curiosity locked on this story, for it is far from over. And if you enjoyed exploring every detail of this labyrinth with us, consider joining us again for further deep dives into the most riveting cases of our time.